talk to you about integrity. And that might seem like kind of a dry subject. Why am I talking about integrity? Well, the other day I was presenting to some honor students at the University of North Florida about careers, entrepreneurship, and leadership, and I snuck a slide in there on integrity. Well, it's interesting. When I got done with my presentation, it lasts about half an hour, and afterwards they break and they plan events and have pizza. And I said, what did you think of the presentation? They said 2 points. They really liked it, that it was a broad subject. Other speakers made it very specific. And also, you are the first person to ever talk to us about integrity. That struck me. I go, why did that strike you? They go, we've never even really talked about that in school. We never heard about that at home. It was almost, the way they said it is, what is this integrity? It was like a foreign word. It was like brio this morning. You know, how am I going to really use that? So it was really interesting. So talking to Shankar about that event, I said, you know, maybe that should be a title of a speech. And he said, well, I don't know. I don't want to be too preachy. And then Shankar said, well, sometimes we need a little sermon or a little bit preached and teaching. So if you don't like my talk, we'll blame Shankar. So why, I've already talked about why I think it's important, but a quote I made up was, it's a foundational character trait that aren't for plaques on a philosopher's wall, but to be talked about in the community hall. And isn't that what we have today? So as I talk a little bit about integrity, I want you to be sensitive to your conscience, where you might be pricked a little bit. Because if you just hear this and you're not changed, then I wasn't very effective. So I want you just to open up your heart, your mind a little bit about where this might apply to you. So what is integrity? There's many elements. You could talk literally probably for an hour about what it is. But just to give you some bullet points on it, one is we're a promise keeper. We keep the promises that we make to our family, to our job, to our boss, to the things that we said in a contract with our mind that we will do, that we will live up to. What else is it? Well, we're going to live what we believe. It's not that we just say, oh, you know, I believe in this religion or I believe in these concepts, but we outline the values. Just like we heard from Daryl, you know, we value generosity. I'm going to live it. So it's those values that we attach ourselves to and that we live them out. Another element of integrity is we do right, whatever the cost is. That's a tough one. Have you ever been in a situation where you walked out of the store and you looked at your receipt and they undercharged you? Sometimes we're tested on our integrity. In fact, I was at a store once, it happened to be a liquor store. I was in there buying pop, right? But a friend of mine who was a physician walked out of the store and they looked down at this bottle of champagne that came with 2 champagne flutes and they said they only charged me $10 on a $100 bottle of champagne. He asked me, what do I do? Because it was somebody that I knew actually through church. I go, no, what's your conscience tell you? He got in the car and drove away. So sometimes we're tested. It's a little spooky situation. Also, I think we want to think about integrity as far as what we reap and what we sow in our life has a lot to do with integrity. Integrity is not only what we do when no one is watching, it is who we are becoming when no one is applauding. So why should we have integrity? Is it a should? I'm not a big believer in should, shame, and oh, you need to do it, live this way. Not a big believer in the should concept. Sometimes it applies. Should we do it because of our faith, because God says that we need to have integrity? Well, maybe. But I don't think that for me is a core motivation. I don't think I'm going to get rewarded because or complimented by God if all of a sudden he says you have integrity. I think this is a baseline expectation. Now, if we go on and we exhibit our values and we're generous to society, now those are things to be celebrated. But I think integrity is just something that should be in our fiber. It should be just an assumption. It should be what I would call a given. I think integrity is something that we want because I think out of it we get peace. We get joy. And actually we get success out of living with integrity. So integrity has greater worth than gold. Character traits last for a lifetime. So my test of integrity is when I look myself in the mirror. You can't hide from yourself, can you? So when I look at myself in the mirror, I ask myself, did I quit too early? Did I take shortcuts? Did I do it over the advantage of someone else? Did I tell not the truth so that I could look better? Those are my tests. Did I work hard? Did I put all the effort into it? Did I care for others? I think that's an important element. And also, I think it's important not to be too legalistic about integrity. I've known people that it's all about integrity and they're judging me and they're judging you. So I think an important element to add is a fun factor to your integrity journey, to make sure that you're not taking yourself too serious. When we take shortcuts, when we go around and not live up to our integrity, I think we're shortchanging not only others, but we're shortchanging ourselves. Because when you have to rely on what you've been given, the talents and things that are in you, instead of taking shortcuts, you tap into something deeper in yourself, a fuller potential, a fuller ability to succeed, maybe a lot farther than you would have succeeded had you taken that shortcut. That's why we want to do this, because you don't want to shortchange yourself in what you can offer those around you in the community. So living with integrity will actually make you better of who you are. So it's an opportunity. Integrity will open up doors for our potential to actually be realized in our life. It's a gift. They ask me, where did I get this integrity? I think some of it came from our parents. Some of it comes from our faith. Some of it comes from society, like some of our politicians, right? Should be a bigger laugh than that. But I think a lot of it comes from our conscience. That's a strong test. So listen to your conscience and think about integrity. And don't just live it with legalism, live it with brio. That's our Toastmaster.